Thank you so much. It's a absolute pleasure to be invited and giving us an opportunity to present on industrial hemp as a crop, as a potential for the Indian agricultural systems, and also a very big potential positive impact that a crop can lead to the environment of the nation and also many other industries going forward. So once again, thank you so much for having me as a key speaker, and I will take this opportunity and give you guys everything regarding uh, why hemp, what is hemp, what are the regulations around it, what are the benefits of growing hemp in India, and also internationally what is happening in the hemp scenario, and how India can really benefit if this is done right in the agriculture space. And I believe that being working in this industry since last 11 years, there's a lot of understanding, there's a lot of action and traction that has been happening in this industry. So it is the perfect time and platform for us to educate all our people and stakeholders about this wonder crop. So thank you once again. And just taking you through the presentation, um, just starting with the background introduction of who we are and what we do. As a matter of introduction, my name is Delzaad Deolaliwala. I am a co-founder of Bombay Hemp Company. We started in 2013 as one of the first hemp companies in the country. We are seven co-founders coming from the same college or HR college, where it started back in 2011. The idea and the vision to bring hemp into India, and since then it's been a long journey. Since 2013, it's been almost now 11 years that we have embarked on this journey, and it's been something that gives a new definition to our life, our purpose of life, and wanted to share this same vision with you guys moving forward. So, as a company, we were the first in this space. Started it with the main understanding on being the pioneers to develop something in the hemp industry, where the mission was to make some sustainable business model using hemp as a tool, because we believe that hemp is one such crop that can really impact lives of farmers, artisans, industries, many other form of environmental applications, and also primarily to the society at the largest part of the full pyramid that we are talking about, where human life is the most important, and hemp is one crop that can really impact humanity in the form of roti, kapra, makan, and dawai, as we all know, as food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. And that is one crop that can really do wonders. And the mission is to impact farmers, to have the right kind of economic benefits to our rural communities, and also use this crop as a form of potential impact for all these stakeholders that we are mentioning. And the most important thing, why hemp? And starting with the basics of what is the differentiation in different types of cannabis. As we all know, cannabis is a topic of discussion, primarily used or understood for only intoxicant, or for you can say for any form of euphoria or any kind of wrong usage. But hemp and cannabis has always been considered as one of the most impactful plant with the most known medicinal usage, most known fiber and seed usage, which were completely, I would say, whitewashed in memories and in understanding and ideas, because of the regulations and the strict laws that we as Indians had to impose because of the US and the global economies changing the attitude towards the plant. So where the plant stands today, what we work with, and what is the differentiation in hemp and cannabis is what I have laid it in front of you guys. One is cannabis sativa, which is industrial hemp, which basically is where the fiber, the stalk, the leaves, and the seed of the plant are the main usage of the plant. These are all non-narcotic and non-intoxicant usage. These parts of the plant can be used primarily for industrial usage, and the other part, which is the indica, which is the other variety of the cannabis plant, is where you can use the flower and the leaves for intoxicant purposes, where there is a high percentage of THC, which is also known as tetrahydrocannabinoid, is the main element or compound which gives you the euphoria feeling. So whenever we talk about ganja or charas or cannabis in itself, these are the different parts of the plant. That is where the intoxicant lies. But other industrial hemp part, which is the fiber in the seed, there is no intoxicant at all in the parts of the plant that we use. And the third variety is ruderalis, which is a mix of the indica and the sativa, and it's primarily used for non industrial purposes. It's primarily for your ornamental usage of using it for medical or for somewhat medical usage purpose only. Going forward, the main breakup of the plant is what is in front of you guys, where the seed, being the most important, can be used for food purpose, for oil, for cosmetics, for many other forms of healthcare usages. That's the breakdown of the seed. Primarily as an industry, seed has now been used as a food ingredient in our authorities of FSSAI approving it in 2019. So we can use the plant of the seeds to use it for all FSSAI usages, which is for the food purposes. The next important part is the fiber, which is where the textiles are used. So everything to do with garments, for geotextiles, for other forms of insulation materials, and fiber is a very important material. And countries like China and countries like US have made $1 billion on this plant, on this fiber application, going forward. And we wish as India also to use these benefits going forward. The other parts, which is the shives, which is the stalk of the plant, which is broken down into smaller pieces, that is used in primarily building material. So there is a very new innovative concept of green building material, where hemp is one of the important biomass, or material that can be used for green insulation and green green brick making, which is the substitute to cement bricks, which is going to be a very important environmental impact going forward. And the main two medicinal uses of the plant, which is the flower and the leaves. The flower, colloquially known as ganja, is what where the intoxicant usage is, and the leaves, which is known as bhang, is where also the therapeutic uses of the plant is. And you would be very pleasantly shocked to understand and know that these names and these parts of the plant are being used in our Ayurvedic text and references, has been used in many other forms of old traditional medicines, where these parts of the plant have been always been used as a benefit for pain, for health in the form of digestion, for sleep, for any kind of neuro diseases. All of this has been historically used and preserved as knowledge for traditional medicines when it comes to medicine from cannabis plants. So this is the breakdown of the plant. Going forward, would like to give you a detailed understanding on the legalities, because every time when we speak to any person, authority, institute, government, non-government, private, the main question is this even legal? If it's legal, how is it legal, and what are the rules around it? So an important breakdown of the law is very important when it comes to parts of the plant, and where hemp and cannabis is actually regulated in the Indian legal system. When it comes to NDPS Act, that's the main act that governs cannabis. And very importantly, it only governs the cannabis flower and the cannabis charas, which is the resin of the plant, which is what has been highlighted in this slide, where cannabis means charas and the ganja. So very important differentiation here is that only the flower and the resin is banned or treated as a narcotic. Every other part of the plant, as we mentioned, the seeds, the leaves, and the stem, are completely out of the NDPS Act. So whenever we speak to anyone and give their understanding that is cannabis illegal or banned completely, the answer is no. It is only banned when it comes to the flower, and it's only banned when it comes to the resin. Every other part of the plant is completely allowed and to be used for different purposes, as mentioned before in the slides, where it's textile, it's food, it's clothing, it's for cosmetics, it's for many other forms of biodegradable materials, bioplastics. All of that is completely allowed. Very important part in the drugs and cosmetics also, where bhanga, which is the cannabis leaves, except the seeds, have been allowed to be used. And this is again an act which makes sure that every medicine that we are manufacturing and every medicine which has been sold in the country are being regulated very clearly and very precisely under this Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Just an overview again for everyone in the audience to understand what is industrial hemp regulations. So there's a special power under the NDPS Act given to state authorities or state departments, where you can use the section 14 of the NDPS Act which is highlighted here clearly, saying that it can be used for industrial or for obtaining fiber or seed or for horticulture purposes. So again, the powers are given by the central government to the state government. It exactly works like your liquor laws or alcohol laws, for example, where the powers are in the state ambit, whether to execute those powers or restrict it or completely ban it. It is on the state to actually decide it, and this is what the NDPS Act gives the power. The most important part is there's a policy which is the NDPS policy also, which not many people actually understand and know about it, which is to our surprise also when we were really back then understanding what the law says and what the policy says. It clearly says that it should be used in the form of industrial purposes for making fabrics and for biomass, and it is mentioned in the NDPS policy that hemp and cannabis cultivation should happen. So there was a lot of I would say, understanding back then in theory of how it should be done and what should be done. But because of the NDPS being one of the most notorious and most difficult act to deal with, we know what consequences of NDPS can really lead to what kind of jail and penalties. We as a community made sure that we don't touch the plant, but the law is very clear. The details definitely lies in the devil definitely lies in the details, where everything is allowed as per law if you make sure that there are certain guidelines and certain procedures followed as per the given governing law. Moving forward, there's again a special section, which is section 10 of the NDPS Act, which allows the state to give the power for using the plant for medicinal usage. So anything to do with using the flower, also the powers are given to the state, and that is what states like Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh are in the final stages to allow this cultivation to happen. And once medicinal cannabis cultivation happens, which is clearly mentioned under section 10 of the NDPS Act, the change of usage of this plant and the usage of this plant for the right purpose, which is drug formation and for medicinal usage, is going to change the way opium and morphine has been used for treatment of pain, the same way medical cannabis can be used for treatment of pain and for other form of disease like cancers and diabetic pain, where nothing can really work except synthetic drugs, which have a lot of other side effects, where cannabis can be one of the most natural form of pain alleviation for sure. Just an overview of as we spoke about in the drugs and cosmetics, it's mentioned clearly in the cannabis sativa name, where bhanga is the leaves of the plant. You can make patented proprietary medicine, or you can make classical medicines. Classical medicines are already being referred to in our medicinal text and books. Since centuries there have been drugs of cannabis leaves which have been sold in the market, which have been manufactured and have been also been consumed and traditionally used by many practitioners and also naturopathies of the world to use this as a main ingredient in their formulations going forward. Just a bit background of what Boico and the global understanding of what cannabis and the fiber space of the cannabis plant is. Just to give you an overview, that the fiber is where the real demand of the cannabis industry has been really coming and generated. India is definitely there on the map, but we have a lot of prospect actually going forward. China and the US are the main companies, and these are the stats up to 2021. But today the stats are up to $2.8 billion of hemp potential market is there when it comes to textiles, and it's just growing more and more because of the natural fiber space, where hemp becomes a very important crop, because in India the dependency is primarily on cotton. There are no other natural fibers or bast fibers that I can refer it to, except jute, which is only limited to your eastern parts of the country, which is only Bengal. So there is a lot of potential that we have in cannabis to use it in for fiber purpose and for also for seed purpose, and specifically targeting our conversation today with the agricultural institutes, that hemp is one solution when it comes to seed, when it comes to basically it becomes an oil seed or becomes a food crop. It also becomes a cash crop in the form of fiber, and it also becomes a cash crop again because the stock of the plant can be used for biomass, nitrogen fixation. You understand the problems of what is happening in the environmental impact when it comes to construction. It can also be used in those forms and manners, which is going to be very impactful going forward. And very important thing, which is not mentioned on this slide, is that hemp is one of the highest CO2 sequestration crop of the world. So if 1 acre of hemp can actually sequestrate 2 tons of carbon dioxide from the air, we are talking about solutions that can really change the world and the maps of environmental problems that are coming in, specifically Delhi, North India, where this crop can really change the environmental problem, the air pollution problem that can really lead to a lot of applications. As mentioned here, defense, automotive, wind energy, all of these sectors can really benefit when it comes to cannabis. Now, what is the global cannabis impact? And this is a very general overview, presentation that I'm presenting, because the time is limited, and the idea has to be clearly messaged directly to the people listening here. So, what are the different applications? As I mentioned, the first ever car panels of Lotus car, BMW, Mercedes were all made from hemp. And this is what, the fiber of the plant and the stock of the plant were used to make this. Even your Henry Ford's first car's fuel was made from the Ford, Icon Ford company, used hemp seed oil as their first oil to make their, basically run their engines and make that form of raw material for the usage. Adidas uses hemp in their sneakers, Puma, Body Shop, a very famous cosmetic brand. What is the usage of hemp fabrics? It's in apparels, in shoes, the upholstery, bags, curtains, many other formations and other forms of applications. The benefits that are there are antimicrobial, breathable. It's better with every wash. It's like wine, like every sip you take, and every sip you take it after a month or 2 months, the sip takes tastes better. The same thing is with hemp, where every time you age it, or take it with time and consume it with time, it gets better with time. So that's the overview, and also very important comparison of cotton and hemp, because when it comes to placing a crop, it's always going to be compared with other crops already in the system, right? What is it better through cotton? How is it better through other forms of natural fiber? So this is a simple slide that gives you a description on why is it better. Cotton consumes a lot of pesticides. Hemp does not require pesticides at all. The growth cycle is 8 to 9 months. The growth cycle is 3 to 4 months. So
Hello.
you can have 3 cycles of hemp in
Sir,
one.
you are
Yes, sir.
connected? Okay, okay. Proceed, sir.
Yeah. So the growth cycle is very important. The consumption of water, the environmental benefit, and the factor which is the most red line, I would say, in this entire conversation is that water levels of every state and every geography is going down. So we need a crop which requires less of water to even grow, even to harvest, and even to manufacture. And hemp is one of the most important factor here. Fiber production per acre, only 200 kgs of cotton to up to 500 kgs also in different parts of the world it grows up to, but it's very labor intensive, it's very pesticide intensive, and hemp naturally gives you around 350 to 400 kgs easily of raw fiber per acre of output is what we are talking about. Carbon emission, very important point. How much is the percentage of 4.2 to 1.9 percentage of textiles? Cotton is at 38% of the world global natural fiber textiles. Hemp is still less than 1%, but it's rapidly growing, and we need plants like hemp and flax also to be pushed forward. And the tenacity is a technical term. And what is the benefit of it? It's definitely not as soft as cotton, but it's more durable. The basic argument between fast fashion and slow fashion. Slow fashion is where the future lies and where the world needs to move, and hemp is one of those definite solutions over there. Just an overview of what are the applications again. Denims, apparels, bags, jackets, everything is to be done with hemp. Again, very important point. What is the benefit of hemp, and how do we take it to the industry environments? It helps deforestation, CO2 emissions, durable products, and soil remediation. Very important point from an agriculture point of view is that when a crop is grown, hemp is one crop that actually fixes the nitrogen in the soil, and it makes it ready for the next crop to be done. So for example, it is grown in mostly your rotational crops where hemp is one season and something else grows. So the same concept has to be given to the Indian farming sector, where hemp is not the only crop to be grown, because any monocropping does not lead to benefits, or it leads to soil deterioration. So hemp is one of the natural selection when it comes to you can say alternate cropping, or rotation crops. So that's where the benefit of environmentalist community. Very important problems that we saw in communities like Uttarakhand and Himachal. There's a lot of migration There's a lot of problem when it comes to employment. So hemp can be one of the most important supporter of employment. Migratory change can happen, and also local developments can happen. Industries, manufacturing, tourism. There are countries who have made millions and billions of dollars when it comes to cannabis, which is example of Amsterdam's of the world, or Netherlands, or Canada and USA. India definitely has an opportunity to also do that in a very sophisticated manner, not going out recreational, but more medicinal, more therapeutic, more traditional medicines, like how Thailand has done it. The same way we can also do it going forward. An overview of other brands that have been working on hemp. Importantly, countries that have been working on hemp, China being the most leading country in the world when it comes to hemp, and the impact of hemp going forward. We also work with Ministry of Textiles and Ministry of Agriculture. Now finally has understood the impact of hemp. ICAR institutes and IR institutes are now started working on hemp. One of our important contributor to the hemp industry in India is Mr. Tata. He was the first investor, and he was the one who actually believed in the cannabis concept and the hemp concept back in 2016. And once we got his blessing and his, I would say, name on the hemp picture and industry, there was a complete shift in the mindset of many people and regulators going forward. This is a complete, understanding on what all can be done from hemp when it comes to our medicines and our products, where we sell the hemp oil, the powder, and the proteins. There are many form of medicines that we are selling. Very important point is licenses. There are states like Uttar Pradesh who have been given licenses to cultivate hemp for research purposes. There's an institute called CSR, Institute of NBRI, National Botanical Research Institute, who have been granted this license along with Bombay company to do research on the cannabis plant. We have licenses with Jammu and Kashmir, CSR, Triple M again, who are allowed to grow hemp for specific medicinal purposes, and these are special licenses given by the excise department. This is a license by Uttarakhand government, which is the only state that allows you to cultivate hemp for industrial purposes. And just an overview and a very quick, visit of where all we grow it. It's in Uttarakhand that we grow with GB Pant Institute, and that was a minister who was there, the Ministry of Textiles, Mr. Ajay Tamta. This is an NBRI project land that we have, where we have been growing hemp since last 6 years now. This is with Jammu, CSI Triple M. These are the plants where they are primarily grown for the flower usage. And just a very quick overview in Ayurveda, where we are using hemp, cannabis, specifically in your text, it's called Vijaya, which has been used traditionally. These are the important studies that we are doing with Tata Memorial Center in Bombay, which is for cancer studies, which is very important for us to understand that as a primary institute in the country, which is for the main cancer research, they are believing that cannabis is one of the most important plants that can really give you a lot of benefits for pain. So we have been doing studies with them. We are doing studies with NIA, National Institute of Ayurveda. We are also partnering, as we mentioned, with CSIR institutes, with Lucknow, with Uttarakhand, with Pune, with Jaipur, with TMC. This is the background. And very importantly, we are the pioneers in building the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, where we have been invited to discuss important parameters of what should be allowed and how the commission report should be made. These are our scientists and people from our companies representing. Now, this is the background of where hemp is growing. What is the basic understanding of different states? As I mentioned, Uttarakhand is one state that is allowing already hemp to cultivate, but there are so many different states that are already in final decision making processes and steps where hemp can be grown, which is Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal, Meghalaya, Manipur. There's a lot of Himalayan states that believe that cannabis is one solution for the problems that they are facing when it comes to migration, when it comes to employment. And naturally, cannabis grows all over those places, right? So it's very easy for them to integrate this plant in the system. Even Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala has been one of the pioneers in palliative cares, because they believe that cannabis can be one of the solutions over there. So there are a lot of other states, even as I mentioned, Himachal and Uttarakhand are the primary winners over here. This is just an overview of what the policy states, how it's more of a legal understanding here. This is regarding the partnerships that we had done with the UP state government. The excise commissioner is here and planting the seed, and it's a very momentous thing for us, because there was a lot of to and fro and problems in the back end that happened with us when it comes to permissions and regulations going forward. But It took a lot of time, a lot of convincing. We were the first company in 2013, and now there are around 80 to 100 companies in the country who are doing a lot of cannabis research. Madhya Pradesh being one of the state government also to allow you to cultivate cannabis for industrial purposes, where P.C. Sharma ji was one of the main person to allow you to do it, and this is the law and regulations around it. I'll just sum it up very fast. This is in Maharashtra, in Himachal, in Manipur. In Manipur, government allows cannabis to be cultivated for medical purposes, specifically to one state. License has been given, and in states of Maharashtra and Himachal also there has been a lot of traction happening. And this is a very important slide where we were the first company to host, I would say, a cannabis session for the doctor, for the union minister, Dr. Jitendra Sharma, who is primary looking at Northeast and Northeast development. Also, he's the main minister for science and technology, which is where CSR, NPRI comes in, and CSR triple M. And the center person is Dr. Jajendra Badwe, who is the main director of Tata Memorial Center, and the person next to him is the drug controller of DCGI that time around 2019, and he was the main person looking into it. There is the final slide of now what is the companies and who all are looking into it. There are many companies as I mentioned. It's just the start of the industry. I'll just take one more minute and wrap it up. Where hemp is just, I would say at its very nascent stage still, to be realized the potential actually, where there are many state governments, as I mentioned, who are looking into it, processing it, already coming to a stage of accepting it as a very key factor for their state. States like, as I mentioned, Himachal, Uttarakhand believe it's one of the most important crops for their nation and for their system, because traditionally hemp has always been consumed or used or worn or applied in different forms and manners. Even Northeast India has the same understanding. Culturally, cannabis comes in the Northeast and North part of the country, where even UP and Bihars and Odisha of the world also use cannabis for traditional purposes. So there's a lot of understanding India already has. It is just because of the act of NDPS. It's just because of what the Western countries and the culture made sure that we do not use hemp traditionally, has been the main problem for us. Hemp has been used in many centuries back. Even there's a UN report of British Commission in 1855 where hemp was used as a primary crop. So even Britishers understood that India and cannabis go hand in hand, but because of our failed systems of protecting the US interest, and that's why 1985 Rajendra Gandhi actually banned Rajiv Gandhi, sorry, banned cannabis, and that's why we are facing these problems. So our main idea and philosophy as Bombay company is to work with with the policy and advocacy people, to work with you guys as an institute to promote hemp and cannabis and the benefits of it, because we need a voice, and we need a voice very strong to reach out to many more ministries, many more political people, to make sure that they believe in this idea and support us going forward. So I'll just pause here. I'll wait for you guys to ask me questions or anything else that you want to understand. But this is a primary summary of us and what we have done in the last 11 years in Bombay Company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful presentation. I'll take up the questions now.
Sure.
How does hemp farming differ from traditional crops in terms of water and nutrition requirement?
Right. That's a very important question. So basically, there are two most important things. As I mentioned in my previous slide, also that the water consumption of hemp is very minimal. It is though a very primarily a rain-fed crop, but in places like Northeast India and also North India, it grows between September, October to the month of February. So it does not really require too much water. In the initial period of sowing is when the water is required, but as a comparison of how much water a traditional crop requires, I would say it is minimal, 1/5 or 1/7 of what the others actually require. The pesticide also I mentioned is very less, because it is a very resistant crop, so it fights its own any form of insects or any kind of pesticide by itself, because it has its own resilience of it. And that's why it's called weed, for a reason, because it can grow anywhere and anywhere, everywhere, without the conditions becoming favorable. So it can grow in the dry conditions of Gujarat, also in Kutch. It can grow in the cold conditions of North India, which is Himalayas and also Afghanistan's of the world, and it can also grow in the most sunny areas of again of Rajasthan and UP and Gujarat, where there is no requirement of water. It can definitely grow in a very low maintenance. There is not too much of amount of pesticides or too much of concentration of even your I would say NPK required, even your manures required, because it can definitely use the moisture, use the nutrition from the soil itself, and make the most of it. So in an overview, it requires very less cost of maintenance. The seeds are also, the germination rate is around 80%, which is very good, and it can really fight any form of environmental issues when it comes to heavy rains or heavy cold or any form of even dry weather going forward. So that's what it grows in. Even Russia, it grows in China, it grows in the places of Alaska and US, and can grow anywhere. There's no favorable place where hemp can grow, but it mostly is a crop for all standard of climate and areas of the world. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take up the next question, sir. What are the key challenges in hemp cultivation, especially in the Indian agricultural settings?
The key challenge that we have understood, ma'am, and again a very vital question, is that where do you place this crop and which is the alternation to which this crop is going to be replacing. That is where you are talking about where UP is heavily dependent, for example, on food crops. So in which crop is it going to be replacing? Can it replace your conventional potatoes and onions and sugar canes of the world? Yes, it can. But what is the output, what is the the economics of the farmer, all those things have to be tried and tested in different states. So the answer is that it can definitely work as a replacement to many crops and many agricultural usages already that are happening. But what and where and what is the price to it is the most important, because traditionally so many crops have been always been researched upon or done with so many trials, multi-locational trials by institutes. ICR, IAR have been involved. In hemp, there is no such direct involvement by these institutes. We have been working with CRIJAFT, NIRJAFT, even in Uttarakhand, there is GBPAL Institute. So there has been understanding in geographies of UP and Uttarakhand of where hemp grows and how it will grow. And primarily, it's the altitude crop that will grow very well, because hemp, when it comes to altitude, it grows the best when it comes to 1,000 meters or plus, because the quality of seeds, the quality of flower really improves there. But when you're growing the plant for fiber, you don't require altitude. You just require flat lands, and that's where UP and Bihar and places of Odisha can really work well. So a plant needs to be understood in each geography. In our understanding today, it primarily goes in the north geography easily, altitude of Uttarakhand and flat plans of lands of UP. It grows well, but we need to understand each area a bit clearly on how, where, and what plant it's going to be replacing. Because as I mentioned, the farmer is looking at per acre yield. So if we can give them X amount, and which is better than what is already been growing, hemp can be replaced very well. And in China, there have been replacements of cotton primarily when it comes to hemp. In US, the replacement of corn has happened because of hemp. So there are specific crops and specific areas in these countries that have replaced that crop with hemp. So the same thing we can also target, where where crops are not being able to grow. Like for example, Marathwada and Vijayawada of Maharashtra are very important areas where cotton is grown, but cotton is not very lucrative to grow, because there is loss of you know there's a loss of output. There's a lot of heavy dependency on the water, and the land is not the best irrigated over there because of water constraints. So hemp can be one replacement over there, because it does not require so much of water and environmental factors. So these areas where there's nothing growing, even Rajasthan for one area, for example, when there are very few crops grow, we can really look at hemp. And very important point, just I just remembered, is that hemp with any form of animal conflict, for example, like you grow any other crop, sugarcane for example, there will be intrusion by, like for example, what do you call it, like cattle, or maybe monkeys, or other animals. Hemp does not have any form of animal conflict. It makes sure that because of the structure of the plant and the way the cannabinoids are produced, no animal, no cattle really comes close to the plant. So it can really protect the plant. It can be bound boundaried in some manner by this cultivation, and we make sure that other plants are very safe. So that's also naturally what hemp benefits can be given, and we can start with maybe alternate cropping or rotational crops, and that's what I believe, that first grow what the primary crop is and then rotate it with hemp, and that's how the benefit will come to hemp also and the crop that you're growing next, because the nitrogen fixation that hemp does is what the world is really amazed by. It can really change the world by fixing the nitrogen. It really removes all the the heavy metals and pesticides from the soil, so it can be a very important soil remediation, like Chernobyl, a very remarkable world catastrophe that happened for for your atomic blast that happened. Hemp was in those areas that was grown to make sure the soil is remediated, and now the people have settled back in those areas because the remediation is done well. The same thing for air pollution for Delhi. Hemp is one solution that can be provided. So there are many other uses of the hemp, but to answer, we need to understand the area and which crop we are replacing and what is the expectation of the farmer per acre that we are talking about. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are the current legal restrictions on hemp cultivation in India and globally?
Okay. As I mentioned, there are two parts of the hemp plant that we are talking about. One is industrial hemp. So, industrial hemp, the main legal constraint today is not the law or not the act. The act is definitely in place in different states that I mentioned. But the problem is that the seeds, which require 0.3% THC, and there's a very specific law that allows only X% of THC to be allowed to be grown in these states. It's a 0.3% mark that has been there. That is not available in India as yet because there is no R&D done or no breeding activities being done by anyone. So we have been trying to look at seeds from outside, from Europe, from China, but those seeds are not, performing very well in the Indian climatic conditions. So the only way is to, breed the seeds in India, and that's what we as a company and few other companies are also doing. Kaveri Seeds and many other companies have now finally entered into this space to actually do a lot of R&D on hemp. So the 0.3% THC seed is the main legal barrier. The second point, which is the medicinal crop, where the flower and the leaves are used, there is no law that has been allowed in any state yet to grow it for medicinal usage. So to simplify it for you, industrial hemp, the only legal barrier is the seed. Once you get the right seed of 0.3% THC, you can definitely grow it in states like Uttarakhand, Himachal, and many other places. But when it comes to medicinal cannabis, there is no such seed, there's no such law, there is no such available policy that allows you to cultivate. So we are restricted by the state authorities because there's no law available for you to use these seeds for any kind of purposes. So the problem is not the complete legalities, it is the problem of actually implementing these laws, which the states have not done or restricted themselves from doing it. So yeah, that's the general understanding.
Okay. I'll take up the next question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the primary markets and applications for hemp products, sir?
Great. So, as I mentioned, the most, I would say, developed market of the hemp industry is with textiles. China itself is doing $3.2 billion in textiles in hemp, only selling fibers or yarns or fabrics. So, the most, I would say, market which is completely ready to go to customers is the textile when it comes to apparels, when it comes to fabrics, yarns, fibers, everything in the hemp space. It's like the linen space of India, right? Linen today in India is around a $12.5 billion market. So if we can take 10% of that in market into India, we can do a lot of good impact for hemp. So it's the global market of hemp textiles, most developed. Second will be hemp cosmetics and hemp foods, which is where the using of the seed comes in the picture, where you can have seed oil, omega rich seeds for 369 for your protein and for your oil consumptions, and for cosmetic usage, where many big brands like L'Oreal's and PNGs of the world have been using hemp in these applications. And the third important usage will be, of course, the medicinal usage of the plant, which is where using it for pain, or is it for many form of medical applications. The cannabis market has been developed very well. Just to break it down for you guys, globally, 8 out of 10 countries are growing hemp for fiber and for seed purposes, and 2 out of 10 are using it for the medicinal usage. So the total industrial hemp market would be around 20 to 25 billion dollars in the world, and the total medicinal cannabis market will be around 4 to 5 billion dollars in the world. And US being the leader in medicinal cannabis, and also Colombia and Israel. But in textiles and in food and all, it's China primarily, followed by Russia, Ukraine, and we believe that India also will, get on the bandwagon very soon. Very importantly, the applications have been now with bigger brands. As I mentioned, the Adidas, the Pumas of the world, the Nikes, all of them have been using Levi's, Gap denims. Everyone uses hemp. Cosmetics, body shops, body lotions of the world. Many other big brands have been L'Oreal's of the world have been using hemp, and also medicinal. There are few products, or I would say medicines in the world have been approved by US FDA, which is a market itself, and $2.2 billion by one or two medicines itself. So there's a lot of potential, but there has to be research done, because you need to understand where the application is. It's not that hemp textile is best for everything. Hemp textile is very good for example, upholstery. It's very good for denims. It's very good for I would say home furnishing. So if those selected areas are looked at and applied at, hemp is becoming a game changer there. But if it comes to hemp for say shirting or t-shirts, it might not be the best solution. There are better alternatives like cotton, for example, over there. So we as a company, as an industry, as a nation needs to understand where the benefit of the crop is and where we need to identify the use of it, and then only the market will be very good. Also, one important example is pet industry. It's phenomenal on how hemp and pet industry is going hand in hand and increasing the market, because pet has problems of hair issues, grooming issues, anxiety issues, and where hemp really works very well. And people do not think twice to give some medicine or give something to a pet compared to a human. So the perception of hemp also is very easy and relaxed for the hemp pet market compared to the human healthcare market at this stage, I would say.
Okay. Are there any government subsidies or incentives available for hemp cultivation in India?
Not at this stage, ma'am. As I mentioned, there are very few states who allow it to do it, and the only incentive actually is when it comes to importation, where there is a subsidy given for importing the fiber of hemp into India, and then you can make your own yarns and fabrics. But for cultivation, there is no such incentive. We are working very closely with two institutes. One is, as I mentioned, CSIR institutes, which is the Science and Technology department, and second is ICR now finally, who is interested in using hemp as one of the bast fibers. So in the country there are six bast fibers that have been identified, which is called other natural fibers, where jute, flax, sun hemp, kenaf, and all these other plants have been used or been identified. Sorry, Hemp is the seventh plant now, which has been finally put under their main mandate. So now going forward, there will be subsidies. There have been already talks and understanding which have been created, because subsidies can only come in when the market is established, or there's a lot of demand of hemp, or there's a lot of cultivation happening. Today it's not even 1,000 acres that we're talking about. So once we grow in that space and once we grow in that size, though there's a lot of unregulated or illegal hemp also available in the market. I'm not talking about those plants, but whenever the cultivation is legal or commercial, the subsidies are still is to be seen as a benefit. Very important point, and I would like to highlight for my audience today, is that the problem is that hemp is being looked as not an agriculture crop but an excise crop. Just an example of sugarcane. Like if sugarcane comes in the excise department because it can produce liquor or molasses, the same problem is with the hemp. That the end material is what intoxicants are made with. But the plant should not be under the intoxicant regulation, which is the excise department. So in the states that I mentioned, hemp is cultivated by excise department, and that's where the problem is coming, where the subsidies are not coming from the government or for the farmers. So once we can make the shift, and very important voice from you guys can be actually catered to, where we need to tell the government or the state that this is not a narcotic or intoxicant crop by itself. The produce at the end of the day is what is intoxicant. So the plant should be regulated by hemp or by the agriculture department, horticulture department, and that's what the law says, and that's what the world is doing it. And the problem in India is we are regulating under excise. So If we remove it from excise and bring it to agriculture, is when we'll see all the benefits coming to us also. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I'll take up the next question.
Just a-
How can farmers overcome logistical challenges in processing and transporting hemp products?
So today there are, as I mentioned, there are no problem in transporting anything to do with the seed or the fiber when it comes to the laws or regulations. Also, there's no complete law which restricts it. As I mentioned, the law is only for the leaves and the flower. So there is logistical issues that can come in when it comes to transporting that. But seed and fiber, there is no issue. So whenever the farmer is cultivating hemp, the primary use of the plant is the seed and the fiber and the stalk, which has no problem of narcotics or excise or any other form of regulation that deters it from growing or being transported. So there are no special permissions. There are no specific requirements. A farmer can grow it easily in whatever quantity with the license. Of course, there are licenses required to grow the plant. So once license is procured, everything can be grown. The flower and the leaves are submitted back to the Department of Excise, to the state of Uttarakhand specifically that we talk about, and this and the seed and the fiber and the stock is completely sellable and given to any other industry. So the fiber is grown mostly for the textile industry, and the seed is mostly grown for the food and the cosmetic industry. So the farmer directly gives to the industry at the end. And what we are also doing is that we are forming clusters, ma'am, where we are using technology, for example, separation of the fiber, to use it for making it oil, for example, making seed oil. So we're bringing clusters, we're bringing in machineries where there can be producer groups coming together, there can be farmer collectives coming together, and that's how we build the economies and the scale together. So it's more of a community building where we share the knowledge to the farmers. We get all these people to invest in the system of setting up a small, I would say, a manufacturing unit. And once that thing is produced, then selling it to the industry and transporting it anywhere, there is no problem at all. It's more of a the pyramid building where we're building the base, understanding confidence, regulations and all with the farmers, and also building the capital investment of getting a machinery, getting a setup done, so the farmer can immediately look at the market from there and not really look for a market outside, because there's a lot of demand for him but there's no supply of him. So if we can tilt the balance and make it more supply and less change the demand also substantially, that's where the benefit will definitely come to all the farmers. So there's no problem in transport and all. It's just that there's a lot of awareness to be done still before it becomes big.
Okay. What is the expected return on investment for hemp farming compared to other cash crops?
Great question, ma'am. So what we had done for Uttarakhand specifically, and also some parts of UP, for example, what we had done is per acre we had taken two uses of the plant. One is for fiber purpose only, and one is for dual seed and fiber purposes. So what we had done the calculations, there are, as I mentioned, there are 2 cycles to 3 cycles of hemp that can be grown. If we take 2 cycles, and that is in a year that you take, the per acre return that we are getting is between 60,000 to 80,000 per acre, and this is about after minusing all the cost of the revenue which you are growing it for dual purposes. So if you're growing the fiber also and you're growing the seed also, that's the acre revenue per cycle that the farmer can get. And if you're growing only for the fiber purposes, the return is between 25 to 35,000 per acre. So in a 3 to 4 months of cropping, if that much return comes in with a a very less intensive crop with a very good crop for the rotational purposes, I believe that's a very good return. And in only 3 months, 3 to 4 months, you can get the return. And for the dual purpose, as I mentioned, when you use the seed also, the return is between 60 to 65, 70,000, which is also a very notable return in the 4 to 4.5 months of actual end-to-end harvesting and processing that you do. So that's the basic numbers that we have been able to calculate in Uttarakhand and in the plains of UP for now.
Okay.
Which is very lucrative, honestly, compared to other fibers and other crops. For example, sugarcane that we have seen, it's around 25,000, 30,000 per acre, and that too around 7 months. When cotton, if you go to see, the return is between 30 to 45,000 rupees, depending on where you're growing, Maharashtra, Gujarat, wherever. But again, the tenure to grow it is between 9 months. So, in the end, return of effort to reward ratio or timeline to reward ratio, hemp definitely wins, hands down in all possible manners, keeping the environmental, economical factors as the top priority.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We have now completed the round of questions. On
Yeah.
behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank Mr. Delzaad for the talk and for answering the question. This meeting will now be closed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Appreciate
You're
it.
most welcome, sir.
Thank you.